back to our conversation inside a podcast series entitled Choose to Live. This is Father Mark Toups over at Christ the Redeemer Catholic Church, and we have had a conversation so far this week about living congruently, living our lives with authenticity, and how we need to choose to live our lives in congruence. And we've taken the last 2 days to really to lay a foundation. And I just want to acknowledge that the last two conversations we've had have been a little bit longer than the ordinary 3-minute podcast. And that's because what we're talking about this week is some really significant and important things. And I want to draw you in today into a conversation that's going to have equal depth and maybe a little length, but that is really, really important. And I want to begin by sharing with you my experience of being on the plane recently as I was flying to Chicago, where I am this week to teach. Got on the plane on early Monday morning and took my seat. And as a person joined me with the seat on the side of me, they introduced themselves in a typical way, right? They told me what they do for a living, how long they've been doing that, and even offered a little commentary on how things are going with their mission in life. And I, because it just happens almost instinctively now, because I've been conditioned to do so, answered in the same vein. I told them what I do for a living and how long I've been doing that and how are things going at Christ the Redeemer. And the reason I share that with you is because so many of us, whether we know it or not, are inordinately influenced by our mission in life. What we do and how well we're doing it and whether what we're doing is meeting our expectations, that's a very influential thing in our Western culture. And it gives birth to a threefold paradigm, which we're going to call mission, identity, relationship. Let me say that with you again. There's an influence over our life, and it begins with our mission, and how well we're performing then informs our identity, and from that place, we then launch into our relationship with God. Now, stick around tomorrow, and we're going to turn that on its head, and we'll talk about a more proper way to live, which is with our relationship informing our identity, and then that is what drives our mission. But I want to begin today by just talking about where so many of us are, which is very much influenced by what we do in life and how our perception of whether that's successful or not informs our identity. For those of us who are listening, who are still working, how do you feel about where you are professionally? Do you feel content? Do you feel satisfied? Has that met your expectations? Have you, quote unquote, advanced to the level that you thought you would, or has that not happened? Are you being compensated for that financially or recognized for that in the ways that you want, or is that not happening? Or for those of us who are retired, does retired life look like you thought it was going to look? Have you found your place yet? And do you experience a satisfaction with retired life? So many of us are driven by what we do. And what we do and how well we perceive we're doing it often determines how we see ourselves. It's our mission that informs or gives light to our perceived identity. And so if we think we're doing well, then we feel good about ourselves. If we're unsatisfied with where we are with our mission in life, we can often then project that onto ourselves and not feel really good about who we are, right? And then that is what we then project onto God, right? That's what oftentimes influences how receptive we are to our relationship with God. So if we're going to live life with mission and forming identity and that determining relationship, if we're going to live under the paradigm of mission, identity, relationship, then we're kind of setting ourselves up, I think, for failure in the spiritual life. And it's going to be really hard to live congruent. It's going to be really hard for us to choose to live, might say, with the integrity of our identity making its way on the outside. Now, again, as I promised, tomorrow, come on back. We're going to have a conversation about how we can live more authentically, how it is that we can live in congruence with our relationship determining our identity and that driving our mission. We'll talk about relationship, identity, mission tomorrow. But let's take stock today. So here's your homework today. Take a long, loving look at the real and look at your life and ask yourself, how is it that you view who you are? What are the labels that you've attached to yourself? And what are the ways that you try to prove who you are? Has mission, identity, relationship been your pattern? Has your mission informed how you perceive who you are? Take hope. There's hope that we're going to be able to learn a little bit more tomorrow. But until that conversation unfolds, enjoy the homework. Look deep inside your heart. And God bless you.